We were just talking right before. I posed this question a few times because it was brought to a couple of our attentions about a month ago. But there were some coaches talking to club coaches about uh, basically the tiering of how we're recruiting nowadays. And there was a coach that said, realistically, I'm looking at the transfer portal, I'm looking at international, and then last after that, I would look at like a domestic high school kid. And basically, his rationale was they're the youngest, they're the least experienced, they've been playing club soccer, so they take the longest to get prepared for the next level. And I thought it was an interesting, very blunt way to put it. And of course, the club guys were like, "Oh man, what does that mean?" And then to pair on top of that, to kind of prove the point, we go down to Greer and to Florida and the Jeff Cup, and you could have started your recruiting at the Jeff Cup and found an awesome team, especially for the Division Three world. So I posed this question a few times. One of the coaches brought up, culture and how you need like a healthy balance of all those three if you're going to do that, which I thought was a great point. But I'd like to give it to you three as well to kind of get your opinion on these things. And I think we're all in agreement that the furthest south should begin here. So we'll go ahead and, Emmett, if you don't mind, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a really complex question. Right now, I think the landscape's evolved so much over the last couple of years. For it really depends on each institution. So, for example, us at Stetson, it's you have to also know how your competition in the state recruits. We have a thing in Florida called linkage, where there's countries that are offered in-state tuition. A lot of countries. So the Florida, which is usually pretty well renowned with a lot of in-state talent at the high school level, goes untouched, especially in areas like Miami. And so for us, a couple of years ago, we made a huge effort. Actually, we do still attend high school, and to back it up, we were at the high school state championships are in DeLand, Florida, and 2 years ago we recruited a little guy named Chavi Sato, and he had his own issues his freshman year. We redshirted him, and this past year was ASUN Freshman of the Year. And so, for us at Stetson being a private school, the portal can be really tough in being transient with your roster decision making. So what works for us is developing guys actually like a traditional model and having guys really bought into our team culture, all those sort of things, instead of saying, hey, we're going to move this player in for this semester. It didn't work out like a pro style, which there are many schools that do. And I'm not saying there's one that's right or wrong, but that they can be transient with those roster decisions. And so I think every school has its strengths and weaknesses on how to probably recruit. So it's figuring out what your niche is, I think, especially in a state like Florida, where there's a lot of talent in the state, even though we are a private school competing with a lot of state schools.
Yeah. Tommy, what are your thoughts with that?
I mean, like what she said at the beginning, like who's going to be more ready, an 18-year-old that's been playing club soccer or a 21-year-old international, that's grown up in some academy in Europe or something like that, or a transfer from, I don't know, some Division 1 program that maybe wasn't getting the role that they wanted at that school, and then they come to a D3 program and they're a couple of years in, and they're more physically mature and all that. So yeah, for sure. Like I think the 18-year-old club kid is up against it. They're not going to be as experienced. They're not going to be maybe as ready physically. But it's completely case by case, and like what Emmett kind of said as well, it depends on the school. For us, most of our roster is guys that we're bringing in from high school. We only have one international on our team, and that was someone that was in the States already. And when we look at the transfer portal, we're very specific about it for guys that make sense. Generally from our region, maybe someone we knew in the process already. So yeah, I agree. Like I think there's kids that are probably more ready for the college game from those prior two backgrounds, but it just depends on your school and kind of what makes sense for you. But yeah, and with that being said, I think it just makes it that much more difficult for a high school kid with the recruiting process. It's just that much more competitive. knowing you're up against those types of kids in the process.
Norris, what you got?
I agree with these guys. I think it's simple for people to sometimes say that this is the way that we do it. And I think from a coaching standpoint, if you think that there's an easy solution to building a good team, then you put yourself in a bad position already. I think, I always try to talk to people about our philosophy of leaving no stone unturned. And, we're going to stick to that. There are plenty of examples of people overpaying for internationals and then that jamming up their program for several years because ultimately maybe those guys aren't good enough. There are many reasons why people are in the transfer portal. Not all of them are positive or speak highly of individual student athletes, ability to contribute positively to a winning culture. And so I think, and I think it's a little bit of a cop out too for kids or coaches sometimes to say, youth coaches to say that, well, these guys only recruit from the portal or they only recruit internationals, or the reason I'm not getting Division I looks is because I'm an American kid coming out of high school. I mean, the bottom line is if you're good enough, then you're good enough, and somebody will probably find you. So, yeah, I just think that there's more complexity maybe to it now than there was 10 years ago. But bottom line is, the best players are typically going to find their way to the top of college soccer, regardless of where they're coming from. And, everybody else will basically find the right fit. And it may take a little bit longer, as everybody's alluded to, but I think that's why going through the process, being patient and really being realistic and doing your homework and all that stuff is vital. Landing in the right spot.
Yeah, I mean, how many times on this podcast have we talked about doing your homework? I mean, you just brought up I get parents all the time that say, what's the deal with, I mean, who do you get your kids from and where are you recruiting? Or this school is mostly international. And it's like, well, some schools have to be, they've got an amazing international program that I think we would all love to have, where I could bring in a couple kids for pennies on the dollar. That'd be an awesome thing to do. And some kids have to live in the portal, or teams have to live in the portal. And like, we're a state school. Well, it's much cheaper for a state kid to come here. So my roster is going to be predominantly Virginia. So, doing your homework is a critical part there. And the landscape is always changing. But the one thing that won't change is your responsibility to what you want to do with your next 4 years. I mean, it's an expensive, time consuming 4 years where would you spend this much money and spend this much time on something that you didn't do all your research on? I mean, can you imagine buying a house this way? Like, yeah, you show up like, oh, I didn't know I didn't have a kitchen. This is weird. Like, no, you wouldn't do that. And so, it's so easy to find out all 4 of our rosters, exactly where these kids are coming from. And if you're a center mid, well, click on all my center mids. It says their position on the roster. Click on it. You'll see where they're coming from. You'll kind of see how big they are or what type of player they are. You can find film on us online pretty easily now. And, I always say the same thing now more than ever, especially for domestic high school kids. Make sure you've got your list strong and you're assuming you're making a decision without soccer. And then once you've got that list and you finalized it to like 5 to 10 schools, well, now try to make the soccer work at those schools. I mean, it's an easy recipe. That recipe has never changed. It's just more evident than ever because of the portal being an option now and international kids being more prevalent than ever.
Yeah, the portal shouldn't be an excuse to not do your homework.
Right. Yeah, it's your 4 years. It's your thousands and thousands of dollars. It's 90. How many? I don't know the percentage, but how many kids aren't gone money? I mean, it's a very high percentage. So the majority of people that will listen to this, they need to just think of it as an investment. And would you ever make any investment without doing all of your homework? It's amazing how many people don't do their homework and spend all this money and make a huge decision on where to go.
I think recruiting in the portal and internationally, you can find some really, you can find players that have the right reasons maybe to transfer. If we get a player that, let me use a school that doesn't have a men's soccer program, for example, like SUNY Buffalo. And they're like, Coach, I'm from, Brazil. I'd like to come to Stetson. It kind of makes sense if they're up in Buffalo playing soccer and they want to come down this way. We have a huge Brazilian population in Central Florida. It's Florida as well for someone that's used to that sort of climate. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So I think for us, especially with even the portal, it's big to also know why people are leaving their previous school. What happened? Did you call that other coach? Have you talked to their club coach? What are the reasons? Everyone has different reasons. The one thing about internationals and the portal is it can be easy for a coach that's put into a tough spot and needs to quickly get what we call kind of like mercenaries, essentially, guys that you quickly rebuild your roster with. For me personally, that's scary because then I'm creating a puzzle and I have to quickly solve it with guys that I don't know or trust really well. And I have to make decisions in 2 weeks, where when I'm recruiting a high school player, that's even an international over the last year, or let's say someone in ECNL or the MLS Next, I have a relationship with that player and that family. So that puts me much more at ease. Another coach might have a completely different opinion on that matter. And so I think that's where you have to see how that school operates and how they construct their roster.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff's starting to wear off anyways. The COVID eligibility is done after this year. Other than, is the red shirt and COVID? That's one more year, right? I think. All right. So you're not going to see as much of the, well, I'm going to go use my last year of eligibility to go get grad school. A lot of those kids are, well, I'm done. Do I want to go to grad school or not? And soccer's off the table anyway. So you'll see that stuff to, start to wear down. I would imagine. I really hope the portal does quiet up a little bit after this year. And all of us are going to be sure about our rosters for the first time in, 4 or 5 years. I mean, I know on the Division III side, I don't know how you handled it exactly, Tommy, but I basically let these kids make the decision. As long as they told me before their senior year, I was fine with that. But we just continued recruiting, assuming they would all leave. And you get those weird years where I got a big class and also they all came back for COVID, versus a year where I may have gotten a small class and nobody came back. And, so your roster size just fluctuates big time with that. So I'm pretty pumped that the COVID eligibility is starting to wear off so that we can I know exactly when I'm graduating in a year. I've got one class plus a bunch of COVID kids that haven't made a decision on. So all that's going to start to clear itself up a little bit here, starting this recruiting cycle for the 25s.
Yeah, I would just add, and again, case by case, like for us, we've had like 1 or 2 guys stay for a 5th year, but only because maybe they transferred in or it was solely for academic reasons. And they had the extra year, so they played. So it didn't affect us as much, but kind of like what's been talked about already, the recruiting landscape has changed with some of these added variables with the portal, more internationals. I also think and Cheese, you and I have talked about this earlier in the year. Like for us, this recruiting class, this was the slowest process I've ever been a part of. Normally we have, most of our class committed by, early winter, January, February. And at this point in the year, we're done, and maybe we take someone if it's a really special situation. But this year, not the case. We got 6 guys right now. We had nobody up until maybe like January or February. It just took a long time. And we have 6 at the moment, and then we're going to add 2 or 3 more probably between now and, mid-July. I think that's just kind of where it's trended. Last year we had maybe a situation kind of like this, but it just seems like every year it goes further and further this direction. So, Cheese, you and I have talked about this. I don't know if Chris and Emmett are seeing the same thing in the Division I world, but that's what I've seen.
Yeah, a lot of that delay had to do with the FAFSA too. I mean, everything was slowed down because of how long that took. I mean, I don't know what you guys did, but your deposit, we delayed our deposit requirement date too. I don't know if any of you guys did that as well, but we just bumped it to the 15th. And I'd heard of a bunch of other schools doing the same thing. So, yeah, I mean, the FAFSA threw a wrench in the whole operation as well. There's a lot of kids that may have committed and realized they weren't going to get the money they thought they were going to get, or had to wait until they found out for sure how much school was going to cost them. And, unfortunately, we can't wait. So there's a lot of kids that stood around and lost their spot, or, maybe jumped on something just to more of a sure thing, just to make sure they had a place to go. So it's a lot of uncertainty this go around. This spring was pretty wild for the recruiting class for sure.
Yeah, similar for us. We just actually committed two incoming freshmen this week.
Yeah, that's really late. I mean, let's be real. Recruiting never ends for us. I mean, if friggin' world beater shows up August 12th, you'll figure out a way to get them on your roster. But realistically, we all have a date when we're like, this is our goal. This is generally when we're going to be finished. And I mean, Chris, are you usually bringing in 2 freshmen this late?
No, not necessarily. I mean, look, it's a new world, as we've discussed. Until we get through all of our player meetings at the end of the spring and know whether or not anyone feels the need to search for other options, we don't assume that we're ever really done recruiting with a class. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we're in the position that we're in, but most of it was down to patience and trying to get it right.
Well, shifting gears a little bit, we've recruited a lot lately. It's been pretty heavy. Jeff Cup came and went. Have you guys done anything since the Jeff Cup? And what's your next couple of events that you guys are jumping into?
Nah, it's been quiet for the most part since Jeff Cup for us. And then we kick off again on Friday, MLS Next event up in Maryland, Flex event. And then the ECNL Virginia event for us.
Emmett, you coming to Virginia?
It's funny. We had 2 guys from Virginia on our team past year, but I'm not up there for this. We do in the winter. There is a lot in Florida. So, we generally like to go to either a club's training or what you see a lot down here with some of the higher level clubs. Like I know Inter Miami does this. I think Orlando City's doing it where their 19s are playing like UPSL. And so it's really fun to watch some of the guys that are seniors playing against men. And I think that's really helpful for us or guys that are in their gap years. So we have only 2 high school seniors coming in this next year, but we have 3 high school gap year guys that took like a year off, which I know is probably becoming more common nowadays. Especially there's a lot of programs down here, but also guys that just do it and can stay home and then possibly play UPSL at a decent level. So we actually go to some of those games, or we'll go down to just a few trainings around through Florida as a lot of games start really picking up in February, March, and April, because it gets pretty hot here by the time May and June roll around.
What camps is everybody working this summer? Tommy, you're coming to ours, right?
Yep, that's it. I've blocked off everything else, and then I'm saving the dates for you guys. That's it. Best camp out there.
We just got 10 more kids because you said that. So we appreciate your attendance.
You're welcome, man.
I'll post that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to those same events. I'm sure you guys are going to the MLS Next, ECNL, Mid-Atlantic Cup, maybe down in Charlotte, potentially at the beginning of June. And then we'll see about the national events after that for MLS Next and ECNL. I'd love to go to San Diego. Got to see if we can make that work. I'm not going to Florida, though. Too hot.
Too muggy. Too many alligators.
That, too.
Yeah, the summer's tough. We go to CONCACAF U20s this summer, which is really big. We get a lot of interest from that. Or my assistant, Eddie, he's the assistant with the Puerto Rican national team. So that's been nice that we were able to see some of the other countries play in our region. It just fits like how we play as a team. So we watch a lot of these. What's the irony about it is when you're watching the U17s or U20s, it's a lot of U.S. players that actually play for their country, other countries in that CONCACAF. So that's been really good over the last couple of years.
Where's that being played, Emmett?
The U20s is in Mexico. It's right outside Mexico City. So
Norris, you just brought up your end of the season meetings. What do you tell your players? Because I get this all the time about requirements over the summer. Now, obviously, we can't make anything mandatory outside those windows, but what is your this is my message to my players. And let's say you got a kid that's from, the cornfields, like there's no soccer to play in that area. What's your note to that kid so that he comes in ready to go?
We look at every situation individually, but the thing that's consistent across the board is that from the time we finish our spring season, which is late April, till the time that we start preseason in early August, is a pretty significant window where if you're not playing somewhat regularly, touching a ball, it can hamper your continued development and certainly your ability to be ready to hit the ground running when preseason rolls around. And, for those who don't know, the college preseason for fall sports is very brief and insubstantial in terms of really being able to prepare guys for the first meaningful game. So we rely on players, obviously, to put in the work over the summer. But look, every situation is a little bit different based on things like where they live, what's available to them in their hometowns, how flexible they are in terms of the financial piece. Can they go somewhere and spend a bit of their own money to, be part of a program somewhere? Are they, guys that are at a point in their college career where they feel like they need some work experience or internship experience? And how does that impact their time commitment and ability to play? So, every conversation is different, but we try to help each guy find a pathway that works for them in terms of preparing as well as possible over the summer to hit the ground running when we start up again in August.
Tommy, what's your message?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny, your example of living in the cornfields in an area where there isn't a team. I mean, that's not the case for almost everybody at this point because summer soccer has expanded so much. So, I mean, same deal, we're looking at this at the beginning of this spring semester for all of our guys. And we got, I think 95% of our guys are playing at the moment. There's one or two that have unique situations where we're trying to help them. But that's the whole thing for us. We'll put a blueprint in place as far as workouts, but they need to play. That's the most important thing. And now, because of all the different leagues out there, there's really no excuse not to. And the phrasing Chris just used is what we've been saying with all our guys is you need to come in and hit the ground running. It shouldn't be you're hitting your stride 3 weeks in, because at that point, we've already played a couple games and maybe there's a guy ahead of you. So yeah, that's been the message, play, get in a good routine. And we've been intentional about making sure guys have teams and know what their options are and are connected with coaches because I think you have to at this point because of all the options that are out there. That was not the case. I feel like when we were back in college, it was a little bit different. Maybe less demanding in the off season than what it is now. But yeah, there's so many opportunities out there. I don't think anyone really has an excuse.
Yeah, I think the better example is kind of what Chris was saying, where you've got a job, and I got a kid who's actually going to be a second year, so it's still early in his career, but he's going to be working for a congressperson, and I mean, you're talking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I mean, I'm not sure the window is there to say, all right, well, I'll just go and get my running in now. We talked about it, of course, and it's all right. Well, maybe 4 o'clock's going to be your window, a.m. Or maybe you're going to have to, all right, it's time to squeeze in an hour. As soon as you get home, don't go home first. You got to stop off at the park and get your touches in or you will fall behind, And so that's probably the better example than the cornfield example. I'm not recruiting Iowa too hard. Of course, Caitlin Clark has a little brother. I might go after that kid, but
hey, but what you just said, there's definitely guys in that situation, and the message, we're reiterating to our players is we're not asking you to put in 5 hours a day to get ready for the season. We're talking about we're talking about 30, 45 minutes, and you very likely can squeeze that in if it matters enough to you. So,
yeah, you don't want to be
on the different type of player, each individual, some players, one of our best players, for him, sometimes they need a tiny bit of time off and then they like to periodize it. Whereas they're, 6 weeks before the season, it might just be a game or two, but they're building their fitness. So by August 1st, they're in a really good spot. They need a little bit of a mental break in May, maybe in the beginning of June, where then we might have another player at the same caliber that's like, Coach, I'm I'm going to training at summer practice as soon as finals are done, and I'm ready to go 100%. So I feel like sometimes managing the different types of personalities or the type of players is pretty key for any coach and for that player to communicate sometimes what they need.
Is there anything different that you would tell your incoming freshmen, or is there anything that you really harp on? You'd obviously love for them to play USL or anything like that, but a lot of them are 17, 18 years old, and maybe they can't make that team yet, or they're just, look, you're a practice player at best. I've got a pretty established roster. I mean, what's your advice to them, or do you add anything on to, well, that's cool, play with those guys. They're older, they're stronger, they're faster, they're in college already, so you're going to take some licks, but it's going to help you for a preseason. Is there anything extra you would add on to that?
Yeah, so I would say it really depends. With the incoming guys, playing with men for me is huge, because with us, we redshirt so many of the guys that are just like 18 years old, or, depending on the impact that they might have that first year. With some of our guys that did redshirt this past year, especially a position like goalkeeper, I don't know how many 18-year-old goalkeepers played in Division I this past year, but I would assume it's extremely minimal. So for them, I'm not worried as much about the level as I am, hey, go play on like a good quality men's league, adult, whatever it is, and get 90-minute games so that you learn how to, your decision making, and you're playing with older players, might not be able to run a beep test extremely well, but they might be savvy, or they're going to have other qualities to bring. And I think that's where it's really important, at least on our end, to cater to what that person actually needs, where another freshman might be okay with saying, hey, coach, I'm going to go play on this USL2 team. It's right by my house. I might not play a ton, but I'm going to be a really good reserve. And that could be really good for them depending on their situation. So I think it really depends on that individualized person and how they react to those challenges.
Staying on incoming freshmen, what is kind of the biggest thing? They check in, and within an hour, you've realized they're missing this one thing. Now, you've already done your homework. They're going to be good players. They know they can play with your guys. It's all about timing. But within an hour, you're going to be able to tell, like, oh, your timing's now a month or 2 months or next season. I'm assuming some of this fitness or strength stuff's going to come into play here. But, what main message would you give to these guys for their, personal development at home, in the weight room, for their fitness, whatever it is? I mean, what would you say to these incoming kids? And really, this is not just a message to incoming kids. This could be like rising seniors as well. That give themselves a head start. This could be a good opportunity to kind of, all right, well, I'm going to start separating myself now so that the recruiting process comes along. They think I might be able to help even earlier. So what type of messaging do you give to these kids?
Norris, you want to roll?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I think in particular when you're talking about true freshmen, so guys that are coming in at 17, 18, 19, I think it's hard for them unless they've played men's soccer or adult soccer. It's hard for them to understand what that change in physical level will be. If they have access to some significant personal training, I would certainly recommend that. I mean, all of the freshmen that we brought in this year look very different now than they did 6 months ago. In most cases, it's because they've added, 10 to 15 pounds of functional weight. In 1 or 2 cases, they're actually lighter, but again, it's the weight that they are carrying is they're much stronger. They're more explosive. They're more dynamic. They're carrying a lot more lean muscle mass than they did when they arrived. The other big thing for us, usually from a tactical standpoint, what we notice is that because you get punished at a much higher rate in college soccer than you do in youth soccer, certainly in the U.S., guys have a lot of trouble adapting to a tactical defensive plan. And so having guys, this is a hard one, but again, play with older players who are more experienced, where you get punished at a much higher rate, and therefore you have to be that much more tuned in all the time. You've got to be that much more on the same page in terms of the team's defensive plan, where and when and how are you trying to press, what are you doing in transition, or what are you doing to prepare for transition? That most guys have played a million small-sided rondos, possession games, and so forth. They can do that stuff. The speed of play thing is going to be an adjustment, but they can do that stuff. Usually where there's an absence or a gap in their knowledge base, it's a little bit more big picture, and it's usually on the defensive side of things. That's what we find the most. It's a hard thing to pick up in a short period of time, and it's a hard thing to pick up on your own, certainly. But we try to do some things over the summer to get our guys up to speed, showing some video, our incoming guys showing some video, going over our game model, trying to get them to understand what our principles are and our sub-principles are. But those would be the two big ones for me as far as incoming guys and being a little bit better prepared from day one to adapt and hopefully make an impact.
Yeah, I think, Scott, was it Singleton that he does the mentor program? Was that the one that you had mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of stole that idea, and he was at a disadvantage at WNL because I say disadvantage. He recruits the entire country, so it's not like he's got guys just hanging out in California that they could all just pair up over the summer. But stealing that idea, we got guys from the same neck of the woods that we're bringing in, being able to stay in Virginia for the most part. So connecting them and saying, look, if you're working out with them and training with them and doing everything that they're doing, they've already gone through it before. They're going to speed your process up big time. And, then you're naturally playing against those guys all the time. They're going to be pairing up with other college kids. And it's just the best way to get it started. And if you're a sophomore or junior in high school right now, I would be trying to jump into that as fast as I could as well. You could tell the difference. Chris, you hit the nail on the head. I've got a lot of guys that come in and they're skin and bones. You can see their rib cages when they take the shirts off. And by the time they're in the middle of April, you see a lot of confidence walking around our locker room. They're like, oh, man, that kid hasn't put his shirt on yet. He's like, I finally got some muscles. He's getting ready for the beach, and he looks like a whole different kid. And we've had a lot of moms say, what'd you do to my son? I'm like, I didn't do anything. He's in the weight room finally. And he's finally eating right and working out properly. And it's a shame because I wish I had that in the fall. Realistically, you're trying to use a freshman, especially at Division III level. I'm going to use the freshmen a lot, and they are half of who they're going to be compared to that, even just that spring or the following fall. So if they can get that head start on their own, that's the message we send, then that would be huge. They can check in and have a huge leg up.
Go ahead, Tommy.
I was just going to add too. Like what's already been said, it's not like some other sports where you can come in and your main season's in the spring or in the winter. Like you come in and if you're not fit, good luck. You probably just lost a season. So like that's like half the battle. And then like you guys said, the physicality of it, making sure you put some muscle on, and really you don't get the opportunity to do that until the season ends. So I think coming in fit, ready, connecting with upperclassmen, we make sure to go out of our way to do that as well in multiple ways over the summer. Because these first-year guys, that they don't know what they don't know. So talking with some of the upperclassmen, understanding that once you get here, it's fast and furious. We're going to be training a couple times a day. All of a sudden, we're playing games, classes start, you're in a new environment. So I think the physical side of it is so important. And we just had, a bunch of guys that are graduating here at Hampden-Sydney that came in during that COVID year. And we didn't have our actual season until the spring that year. So a lot of those guys came in the fall and they weren't ready at all. And we were able to train and lift and do all these things consistently. And then when we started playing games in the end of February, we had 6 freshmen starting. And it's because we were able to build them up like that. And the change from when they got here to that point in the year was pretty dramatic. So again, I think you have to be fit. You have to do those types of things over the summer. Connect with upperclassmen so you truly understand, or it's going to be really, really difficult in an uphill battle.
Yeah, so if we were to shift to more of a recruiting perspective, what should kids be looking to do as they're going into the summer and then setting themselves up to be seen in the fall? Should they be hitting the ID camp circuit in your guys' minds, or, what's the best use of their time and resources as they head into the summer months?
Actually, I had a kid and his dad on the other day, and the dad was talking about the advice he got from a coach, from a club coach even. as a freshman, an incoming, a true freshman in high school, to go to an ID camp. And it's not to be recruited, it's to see where you're at, especially like pick a big one too. Go to one where, like they're probably going to have in a handful of guys that they are heavily recruiting, and you're going to know exactly what you're up against in the recruiting process. And you have yourself a 2 or 3 year advantage by doing it early. So even at the young ages, pick one or two that makes a lot of sense, and you get to get on a college campus that way and interact with college coaches. So even at the younger ages, it's an awesome experience. It's an awesome thing to do. But just like the messaging we've sent in the past about ID camp specifically, if you're going into your junior, senior year, it's time. It's time to get in front of these coaches as much as you can. Hopefully you've already started your communication with them, so you know where you're standing. And it's even better if you've been seen and, Coach DiNuzzo's like, man, get your butt here. I'm going to work with you. I'll call Cheese and make sure that you're on my team. And we've done that a bunch in the past at our ID camps where you get to get coached by that college coach at the camp. I mean, it's just what better way for us to know what we're getting ourselves into than to be able to coach you and work with you. It's the only avenue we can do that. I can't go sit on your coach's bench during a club game, so it's a great opportunity there. And, but I think just harping on what we've already talked about, you need to start to really challenge yourselves. I mean, if all you're doing is sticking in the club game and playing against your same competition, then you're missing out. I mean, if you could play against older guys, you can play against guys currently in college, go play adult league with, just older guys that are kind of savvy, know how to use their body, and they know how to cheat, if you will. I mean, those are the guys that are going to really teach you some stuff, whether you're not going to like it. It's not going to be fun, but you're going to be a lot better at the end of that. And I mean, if you're a sophomore, junior, if you could jump into some sort of league like that, you got to do it. Do it as soon as you can. Or if you got some buddies in college that you played high school with and they're coming back from their freshman year, call them up and get as many college guys together and play with them. And you'll see your game grow very quickly. And it's going to be ugly at first, but your game, when you get back to your level, you're going to be leaps and bounds from where you were.
Yeah, Norris, I mean, what's your thoughts on, ID camps? Is that something that is a productive use of resources and that sort of thing? Or, obviously, or do you feel like it should be super focused, on the schools that you're super interested in?
Yeah. I mean,
as you get older.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're mostly really good, but you have to approach it the right way. You should, try to be realistic about what your fit is. Not to say that you shouldn't have some reach type schools where you might attend a camp, but if you just sign up and show up and you do that at, I don't even know, half a dozen camps, all within a period of like 4 to 6 weeks, that may not be the best thing. I mean, we see guys all the time that are kind of on this summer camp, ID camp circuit, and in some cases they're just burned out. They're physically shattered and they can't really perform at their best. So, being smart about the camps that you attend, the fits in terms of doing your homework first and making a determination if it is a realistic school for you, even just from an academic standpoint, or maybe just looking at the roster and the way they recruit. Making sure that when you go to those camps that you're being proactive about reaching out and letting the coaches know that you are going to be attending, why you've chosen to attend, and the fact that you're genuinely interested in the particular school and why. I think these are all really valuable things. If you have the resources to do several ID camps, then I think it's a good way to go. But it's obviously costly, and you have to be smart about it. You can't attend every ID camp that's out there. It probably is not going to be a good thing for you in the end.
Tommy, how should kids position themselves as they're going into the fall? Summer's going to go by fast. Next thing you know, you guys are going to be starting your camp, your preseason camps, and you guys get really busy really fast. And so how should kids, position themselves to be seen, to be, recruited, in other words, as they go into late August, early September, and they're starting up their club seasons.
Yeah, I think it happens fast. Like these juniors in high school, like it feels like college is far away, and then all of a sudden the summer hits, and then in August and September they're kind of scrambling to figure things out, and the process has really sped up at that point. So I think that the stuff that's been talked about already, if you have schools that you're interested in, an ID camp can be a good way to go. I would also say something that doesn't cost anything. Just go get on campuses. Just go visit William and Mary if you have interest. You don't have to go to an ID camp there right away. Maybe you can't make it that weekend they're having it. Just go get on campus. And then afterwards follow up with Coach Norris and let him know you've been there and seen it. And it's definitely a place you're interested in. Or it kind of clarifies your process down the line when a school reaches out to you and you let them know, I've already been on your campus. I'm not sure it's the right fit. And that type of thing. So I would say that that's a big thing during the summer months too. And that's when these guys seem to have time available. So just go get on campuses, get a feel for it, and then kind of go from there and keep reaching out to schools, keep staying in touch, and then just let them know what you have coming up schedule wise and what team. I got an email today from a kid that's going to be playing on a different team in the fall. Great. It's great to know that now so we can plan accordingly. So those types of updates are pretty important too, I think.
Norris loves the pop-in too. Like if you're on campus, just stick your head in his office and say hi.
That's not what I'm saying. But
I can very quickly direct you to Coach Kyle Simzak's office. It's real close. We're happy to. Anyone who shows an interest in us, we're happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, right now, most coaches, the list that we're making for our next class is based predominantly around who we're graduating, who we're losing. And so we'll do that for the next couple months. And we got some big events coming up, our ID camp. But once we start our season, recruiting plummets for us. All of our focus now moves to our own team. And our mindset might have been changing recruiting during that time where I realized, I thought I was stronger at this position than I am. This incoming kid maybe isn't the right guy, or I had to move his position, or maybe we picked up an injury or whatever. Our mindset will completely change. Our entire team and who we think we have in the stable changes from August 15th to November 15th. And we all of a sudden may have a critical need for a winger that we didn't think we would need. And so, yes, right now we're recruiting just for replacing who we're losing, but it changes. It changes fast. And, you have to stay with us. Please stay with us. Stay on top. The best advice I can have is try to get as much honesty out of coaches as you can. Keep us posted. I like what you said about I changed my team. Let us know that. Please let us know that. Another thing, backing up to ID camps. If you love CNU and that's your number one, or Sydney or wherever, tell that coach before the camp. There's nothing worse than getting that email the next day like, hey, CNU's my number one, or even funnier for me, it'll be July and a kid will tell me, yeah, I'm coming to CNU next month in August. And the camp just finished. And I'm like, man, all right, well, I would have really spent a lot of time on you. I spread out the wealth at that time, and I barely remember you. I watched a little bit of one game. I would have watched all of you if I knew you were in my backyard. So, being upfront with us, being completely transparent with what's going on, and trying to get the same transparency from those coaches that's the most critical thing for you this summer.
Right. How much recruiting are you guys doing in the fall? Like, how many events are you hitting, or is it? I imagine it's pretty tough to get out. Emmett, how much are you getting out when you're not working on your tan?
Yeah. We actually try to do recruiting in the fall because if other schools aren't, sometimes you can find, players that depending on if they're a senior, they might be a little bit stressed out about the process. We have actually already 225 commits because a lot of the, let's just say like maybe Power 4 and really a little outside of it, they're a little bit more hesitant to be recruiting 25s. You might see it in like the Ivies and stuff right now in Division I. But we see that as a way to, being in Florida, being higher academic, it's hey, can we get ahead on 2 guys and apply some pressure to say, you're either coming here or we're going to find somebody else. So we find that the late spring, their junior year, and then sometimes early in the fall, and then we'll go find the rest of the class. So the fall, I would say when they start up, it's about knowing our list before we go to a big event. Big events generally, if a guy does really well at a big event, then he's probably not coming to Stetson. Just right, he's going to go to a bigger school in Division I if he's on some selection team and they're done really well. So we have to do our homework beforehand, or we got to recruit where they're not from an area that's highly recruited. Like Andres Mata on our team, he's all region. He's from El Paso. He just kind of slipped through the cracks and was, he had 6 goals his freshman year, I think 8 this past year. And so guys like that is where we'll sometimes recruit instead of just from like a big academy. It's just another sector that sometimes we'll look at in that whole process. And some of those guys are a little bit more delayed because they're from like a smaller city than, Washington, D.C. or New York or, one of those.
So, all right, help me understand this. So you're saying that like you're getting 25 commits right now. You have 2 of them. And why wouldn't they be going to a power conference, or is it like that trickle down effect that we started off talking about where the bigger schools are bringing in transfers and internationals, and now like you're able to get in on a kid who traditionally would have been going to an ACC school or whatever? You're able to find those kids? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, for example, if you're Florida State, which doesn't have a men's program, we'll use them as an example. If you're coaching at Florida State, which is in the ACC on the men's side, they're probably not recruiting many 18-year-olds to come in and be in their starting lineup as a freshman. So for us, if we find a 17-year-old that we find to be really good, maybe what's their deficiency? Are we okay with that deficiency? Is it maybe athletically? Are they smaller? Both of our 10s are, 5'7", 140 pounds, 130 pounds soaking wet. So that's why they're at Stetson. And both really good. We rate them really highly, but we got to find out like why, what's their why, and then really jump on them because they fit how we play in our system. We're a system-based team. So when we recruit, we got to find the guys that fit that sort of system. So since we're like a high press team and we press out of a couple different variations, we got to recruit players that are good on the press and the repress. So if it's someone that might be uber talented, but they don't have interest, and Chris made this, said this earlier, if they don't have a lot of interest in the defensive tactics, it's probably not going to be a great fit with us. So when we find a guy we really like, especially in Central Florida, where I think we've had 8 to 10 guys from FKK, Orlando City, to the big clubs here. 0 of them have transferred out in 2 or 3 years I've been here. So that's huge for us too, because you see, they're not leaving and they want to stay and they're invested in the program. So for us, those are all major factors in the early offers.
Yeah, I used to coach club. I know Chris does. So he's able to. I know we've talked about this a bunch. When we coach a club game, we are focused on our own boys, but I've definitely been in a situation where I'm like, man, this kid keeps whooping my butt. And well, I'll call him tomorrow and I'll talk to the coach. And I mean, he did great against my team yesterday. So you do have a little advantage there. I know, Tommy, you live in Richmond. You get a lot of games just in your backyard. So that helps out a bunch. But I think, Emmett, I think you're right. If you're not doing anything at all in the fall, you could find yourself falling behind. I think a lot of us will, rip through the ECNL schedule, the MLS Next schedule, like, oh, there's a game I could go to that's 2 great teams, and I'm off that day. I'm going to scoot up. It's a one-off. We're probably not driving 5 hours to go do something like that, maybe an hour or 2. But we've all done that. We've all jumped ahead and tried to, 2 of the best teams in the state are playing each other in a league game. I'm going to drive up and see the 18s and the 17s and, work on the kids that I need to work on now, maybe get a sneak peek into what next year's class looks like. So you'll see coaches doing that all the time. And I think Emmett's right. I mean, you get in a little early. I've wowed kids because I brought them in first. And then when the recruiting process came around and it was heavy in the in the showcase time, they didn't get exactly what they wanted. They remembered that you were early on them and you really liked them and you brought them in and you showed them that attention early. So, I mean, you'll see all of us add a one-off or two, each and every fall if you can.
Yeah, a good example, I actually called Tommy, this is probably a couple months ago. We were recruiting a kid from Miami, made his senior national team debut, Caribbean island team, and I was asking him, I'm like, hey, so, what's your story? I love first saying that, and then they'll go through where they've played. And he's like, yeah, I was playing on this sort of small club outside Miami. I was a senior, and there's this small D3 that was the only school that reached out to me, and it's in like a place in like Virginia. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm from Virginia, I know. And he's like, yeah, it's Marymount. It was the only school that recruited me. And and the kid is like, now with Inter Miami 2 training and stuff like that. And I look at that as we got lucky because he was a guy that the Marymount coach, who I don't know personally, but cheers to him for finding this guy. He ended up not going there, but he was a kid from Miami that someone in Virginia found, and he's now making a senior national team debut, playing with Inter Miami 2 on an amateur contract. And, he'll be coming to Stetson next year, but it's like finding those diamonds in even in some of the smaller clubs, which so many of these states have. And I think having that network is huge as a coach. And sometimes the timing has to work too. When you're a college coach, can you bring in a kid late? Can you not, but kids like that are falling through the cracks still. And so you have to really make sure you're following up with all these different club coaches and that you're not always just watching ECNL or MLS Next, for example.
Yeah. I mean, is that something that, Norris, you've been doing this the longest, I think. Is that something that's always happened? Kids falling through the cracks and, you kind of uncover these gems that no one else has really found occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people playing. Our country alone is a huge country, but people play all over the world. So, and we can't cover everything, so there are certainly guys that fall through the cracks. There's also later developers, guys that maybe one coach sees a specific role for and everybody else kind of misses it. And that role turns out to be a role that the guy can grab hold of and turn into a pro career. So, yeah, I mean, despite the fact that some people have recruiting advantages over other programs, if you work hard enough at it, if you're smart enough, you're going to find players that will suit your needs.
Yeah, I mean, Look, we all have guys on our roster that were really good for us that nobody was really recruiting, and we saw something in them that maybe they didn't or they fit better in our puzzle. We also have guys on other rosters that we said no to, and you're like, damn, that kid was freaking good. I probably should have taken a chance on him. So it is not an exact science, and it's definitely not round peg, round hole for a lot of kids. But Chris said it early on. We have to look everywhere. We have to. I mean, Chris is coaching in the regional league. There are a lot of good regional league kids that can help Division I programs. There are National League kids and MLS kids. We have to go to all of those games. And then there's smaller clubs in smaller towns where it's not even a big club in the small town. It's the smaller club where they've got some kid that just, well, yeah, I've got family or whatever. I have to play for this club, and we have to do our homework on that kid. Otherwise, I'm going to be playing against him instead. So, you'll see us every day. Like, I got a different email or someone calls me about a kid. I have to at least, get my eyes on a few minute clip on them just to make sure I'm not missing something big and I have to play against it instead.
Yeah. I've seen a lot about, how you have to play at the highest level to play in college. And you just brought up a good point, Cheese, that, Norris, you're coaching in the ECNL Regional League. What kind of players are you seeing there? And, what percentage of your guys' rosters are comprised of regional league players or regional league level players, at the different divisions and that sort of thing? So maybe just talk about the landscape to get us out of here. All you guys kind of take a swipe at it.
Yeah. The regional league makeup, it can be for a variety of reasons that a team is in a regional league. So it might be a team in the regional league that's from a big club that has a National League team already, and they've just got a regional league team that operates under that group. It might be a team like the club that we have here in Williamsburg, Virginia Reign, where, we're sort of an hour away from some of the other major clubs, the ECNL clubs like Beach FC and Richmond United. And so, we've got kind of a captured audience to a certain point. If kids aren't able or willing to travel an hour plus to play for an ECNL team, then they might decide that our club it suits their needs, and they're going to play ECRL. I mean, we have more ECNL players than we do ECRL players on our roster, but there are some very good players playing at the ECRL level for sure. And, you have to try to get out of your comfort zone to grow as a player and become better. But there are a lot of ways of doing that. It doesn't have to be by playing in MLS Next or ECNL. You can get out and do ID camps. You can play on men's leagues teams. We have Lionsbridge, which is a USL2, a really successful USL2 club, right in our backyard in Newport News, where Justin is located. And some of our better RL players as youth players will get training opportunities with Lionsbridge. They've been great about that. And that helps those guys exponentially, to kind of bridge that gap between playing regularly against RL teams and not playing ECNL or MLS Next. So there are a lot of ways to skin a cat in terms of soccer development. You don't always have to play on the best team. You can be a top player sometimes on a team that maybe isn't the best team or isn't competing in maybe the most competitive league, and use that as an opportunity to grow in confidence, try things, not just be a basic 1 and 2 touch player. And then eventually, if those things help you to develop to a point where you get an opportunity to play in college, it's because that coach has recognized some of those skill sets that you were able to develop and thinks that they'll be useful at the next level, at their level. So, there's a lot of ways to grow and get better. There's no one simple answer. It's being aware of your circumstances, what you're capable of in terms of resources, what makes the most sense for your family, and then embracing that to try to become the best player that you can by investing, your time and energy in getting better. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but again,
I don't even remember the question. So.
The idea of trying to find players in every possible location, and as a player, taking your circumstances and using them to the best of your ability to chase your goals. I mean, those are the two things that we're always after. So,
Hey,
Tommy, you got anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add, you said, at the start of this, part of your question was about players playing at the highest possible level. I mean, what is that in youth soccer right now? I guess in theory, it's the academies and MLS Next are at the very top. But after that, I think it's, it can be pretty similar. Just because you're an ECNL regional league team doesn't mean you're not better than an ECNL National League team, just because I think there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of transition in the youth game right now. So it's kind of all over the map. So, everyone's situation is different, but all about, playing at a good level, and playing in a good club with a good coach and continuing to develop. And that can happen in lots of different ways. And I think because right now the youth soccer scene is in such a transition, that's why some kids are slipping through the cracks a little bit, or there's some of these diamonds in the rough, just because it's pretty transitional. But I say that I feel like youth soccer in this country is in transition at all times. So I'm sure this will just continue to be that way until it gets streamlined a little bit more.
One of the common threads, whether I've had ex-college players on or ex-pros, is they're not talking about the teams that they played on as a youth player. They're talking about the individual stuff they did a lot of times, and the extra work that they put in beyond the traditional hour and a half, 2 hours of club practice that they did. So take that into account and do with it what you want. But everybody who's successful has done stuff on their own away from their club. Emmett, you got anything to add potentially there?
Yeah, it's funny how the mentality or the passion piece comes in terms of, it doesn't really matter once you get to college where you play or what you do. It's when you're in college and how do you react once you hit those like adverse moments. And so it doesn't really matter if you're ECNLR, ECNL, MLS, all that stuff. No one cares anymore. Just like when you go to the pros, no one's going to care if you were playing men's league or college soccer. There's a point where I think there's a huge mentality and drive. And so I think for a lot of players, are you doing it because your parents want you to look at colleges? Do you do it because you want to have fun, which isn't a bad reason, or is it a passion, or do you really love the game? And that can be tough for a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old to answer. But generally, the ones that are really driven and really passionate might be less talented, but could over time overtake the one that's more talented, just because of that.
Anything else? Cheese, you got anything?
No, a lot of good info here. I think the biggest focus was, what are you doing for yourself? I mean, I thought that was great. A lot of good notes there. And you heard kind of the conversation that we have with our current and incoming players. And if you're a couple years removed from that, you're getting an insight into what colleges at Division I, Division III levels are telling their own guys. So you're getting the answers now. And so if you could do something about it as a 15-year-old, you're going to be much more marketable when you're 17, 18 years old and we're coming to watch you play. So definitely take the advice and, go find somebody that's going to challenge you and make you better. And you're going to take some lumps, but it's going to be so worth it afterwards.
Yeah. And just to build on something real quick that Emmett just said, like, you guys see like kids that are passionate and kids that are putting in the extra work. Like, that's really, really evident to you guys when you're watching kids play, I have to assume. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's the kids. That's what kind of makes kids stand out is other than just God-given talent, I guess, is just a work rate and a passion for what they're doing.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to Tommy and Chris specifically a lot about recruiting, and Chris has actually said to me a bunch, like, I don't know if he loves soccer in the recruiting process, and it's really a red flag when you talk to someone that's coaching the kid and knows him personally, and he says, "Oh yeah, he's good, but I mean, he's close to his ceiling. He doesn't love it. It's not in that." I mean, that's a red flag for us, and that's something that we definitely have to weigh in, because it shows up big time when they come to us and they're not under their parents' roof anymore. And, they've got the social scene and they got the free time that they haven't had once their season's over. You really start to see that show up. And very rarely do you get a kid that you're like, yeah, I don't know if he loves soccer. And then you find out, he's a total junkie, and you just don't usually get that. So we can see that. You can see that in the training. You can see that when you watch a kid 4 or 5 times. This is why we watch kids multiple times. Because you can show me some great stuff in one day, but I want to see that consistency. I want to see that drive and that mindset to be the best you can every day, because that's what it takes to win at our level. And so, yeah, I mean, we want it. We want that. We want that junkie. We're all junkies ourselves. That's why we're still doing this.
Yeah. You guys have anything else to add in?
I got a question for you guys. What's your current book of choice? I'm going to start reading here. I got to learn how to read first, but we're going to start reading now. So I'm teaching my 6-year-old how to read. So what do you guys got for me? What book you got for me? Not for the 6-year-old. Maybe it's the same. Chris, what do you read?
To be honest, man, I've been pretty busy this spring. I haven't done a lot of reading.
All right. Emmett, you got a book of choice, or none of us readers? I'm a big movie guy. You got a movie of choice?
Hang on, I'm gonna tell you, Emmett's like reading like whatever the latest like Bigger Pockets book is about owning multi-family homes or something. But Emmett, go ahead.
I'm big on reading. We read a book every summer as a team. And so our book last year, because so many freshmen redshirted, was Chop Wood, Carry Water. I actually just had one of my freshmen in here that's going to go. 2 of them are going to go play for Tommy this summer. And it's funny because they're so detailed, because it's they'll like highlight some of the two Portuguese players that we have. They'll highlight like the book throughout it, and when someone on campus or a professor says something, they'll like look at each other and make like a reference to the book. So I was like, I'm glad it has that impact. But that was our book, and then the year before was Extreme Ownership. So
Are there pictures in that book?
I wish.
You would like Chop Wood, Carry Water, Cheese. It's like a 1-day read, basically.
You could read that to your 6-year-old, actually.
Yeah.
All right. That's the one.
I had a sports psych guy on the other day, and he recommended that book as well.
It's really simple.
Yeah. And there's another one by a guy named George Mumford. I'm blanking on the name of it. I had it here just a second ago. But it's the guy who was the mindset coach for Jordan and Kobe. He was he stuck with Phil Jackson from Chicago to LA.
Tim Grover?
That's his trainer.
No, not Grover. George Mumford is his name. You got it, Norris?
No.
I just want to see what comes, avalanching out of there.
So, Cheese, here's the book.
Oh.
Here's the thickness of the book.
Yeah.
It's a 7-day read for me. I can knock that out. That's good.
Yeah, it's not that hard, but that's why I picked it.
It's a good one.
That's
you
my
can get audio book probably.
They have a movie yet? No documentary I can watch?
I did see that Netflix came out with a Man in Full miniseries. And speaking of Richmond, I
started watching it.
Yeah, it's not good. The book's incredible.
It's
Tom Wolfe is from Richmond, so the book was amazing. The miniseries on Netflix, not good.
What's the book, Emmett?
A Man in Full.
A Man in Full.
It's about stoicism.
Okay. All right.
Hey, I still got to share my book.
Sorry.
Before Emmett shares like 4 more. I was reading Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, which is just about, why people are successful and how they become successful. And I pivoted because I talked to my brother and he just read this great book and it's called The Tiger. And basically it takes place in like Russia, like in like Siberia. It's basically no man's land, where it's just a lot of like poachers and it's kind of a lawless land. And tigers kind of just run the scene. And they're like pretty incredible creatures. And so it's kind of painting the picture of what it's like in that environment and then tying it into all these like unbelievable characteristics that tigers have in nature. So right now it's pretty great. I'm really enjoying it. And, it resonates at Hampden-Sydney because we're the Tigers, clearly. So
is that before he got injured?
Yeah,
sure.
I thought you were going to say it resonates because Hampden-Sydney is like living in Siberia.
A lawless land? Yeah, sure. Good one.
All right, well, we'll have another book update here in a few weeks. And, let us know what your beach reading is, Patricia Cornwell or whatever. Judy Bloom.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Guys,
gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you.
See you guys.
All right, guys. Later.
That's good. It's